And a very good morning to everyone. 5:30. I'm actually cold this morning for the first time, bit underdressed, cold hands for the first time, loneliness of the long distance bike commuter.
Eventually.
Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today I'd like to speak to you about 10 tips I wish someone told me when I started cycling. So let's go straight ahead and to number 1, and that is, I believe if you're buying a bike, buy the perfect frame size and make sure you get the right size by going to a couple of bike shops and having the measurements done. It's very important to have the right frame size. Your frame is the center of your bike, and that needs to be perfect. You can rather buy a second-hand frame and upgrade that with new components and new wheels, but try to get the best frame you can get for your buck, because you can always upgrade that to a perfect bike, but you cannot upgrade a cheap frame to the perfect bike. It makes sense to upgrade a more expensive frame with more expensive components. It makes no sense to have a cheap frame and put expensive components on that. It just doesn't work. So number 1 tip, buy the best frame you can get for your buck, and make sure it's the right size. Size definitely matters. Tip number 2, learn to fix your own puncture, and for that you need a couple of stuff. You need a saddlebag. You can carry the stuff with you in your jersey, but it's always a bit of a hassle. So I do it in 2 parts. I have stuff in my saddlebag. I carry a tube because I ride tubeless. We'll get to that later, but I always carry a tube with me. This is a very light tube just to get me home if I really need it. You need tire levers to be able to get the tire out and change tubes. Okay, very important. Also with tubeless, because with tubeless, if you can't plug it, you have to put a tube in. You need tire levers to get home. Very important. I carry an extra CO2 canister, and why do I do that? It's just because I have space over here, which means I'm carrying less in my back pocket. Okay, so I do that, and I carry a chain link. We get to that in a second, but that's what I carry in my saddlebag. Then of course, you can't fit everything into a saddlebag. I like a small saddlebag, but I want to carry some stuff in there that I hardly ever use. So my saddlebag is more of an emergency saddlebag. With that goes, of course, a pump. You need to be able to pump your tire. You can also use a CO2 canister, and I already said I carry an extra CO2 canister in my saddlebag just because it's easy. So then I have 2. I put this one upside down so it can't accidentally go off. So I carry a CO2 canister with my pump. In the summer I don't really carry a pump, but I've noticed in the winter when it's dark, carrying a pump as an extra guarantee above the CO2 canister. I struggle with the CO2 when it's very dark. I don't know why. When it's dark and cold, it's difficult to work with sometimes. The pump is just for emergencies. In the summer I usually don't carry the pump, in the winter I do. Because I ride tubeless, I also have plugs. So I carry the plugs with me, extra plugs to plug the tire. Don't be that guy that's stuck next to the road in a group and says, oh, I can't fix my tire, I don't know how to do it. You have to learn to fix your flats, and you have to practice it at home. So taking out the tube, putting the tube back, taking out the tube back, making sure it doesn't pinch. Those are important things. So learn to fix the flat. That is really important. So tip number 2 is learn to fix the flat. You don't want to be the guy next to the road asking for help. Once again, thanks for watching, and thanks to the new subscribers. If you're watching this video, please subscribe to my channel. As you see, I've been busy for a couple of years now, and I have videos with 22,000 viewers, but I have 200 subscribers. So YouTube keeps asking me, why do you have so many views but so few subscribers? And the answer basically comes down to the fact that I need to ask you guys to subscribe. So please subscribe to my channel. Tip number 3, carry a multi-tool. Very important. You have all kinds of stuff on it you can use to tighten things up and to fix things, but the most important of multi-tool is a chain breaker, or in this case we're going to fix the chain. When you buy a bike for the first time and you think, oh, that's not going to happen to me, I've got a new chain in my bike, it's very important to have a chain breaker and to have a chain link to fix it. You have to carry a chain link that's actually the same link as the chain you have in your bike. So you've got to look and see, do I have a Shimano 11-speed chain? Then you need a chain link that goes with that. Do I have a SRAM? This is a SRAM chain link. Then for my mountain bike, then you need a SRAM chain link, of course. This multi-tool is actually quite interesting because I've been using it for years, and I've been carrying an extra Allen key with me. The Allen key sits on the inside there, and I never knew that, and for years I've been carrying an extra Allen key, and I thought to myself, why would they do that and not just have an Allen key on it? I never realized, and I had a comment recently on my channel saying, my God, how did you miss that? And the fact is, I've been missing it for 3 years. Tip number 4, cycling pants. Buy the best cycling pants you can afford. If you get trouble sitting and you can't sit because you have pain, you are not going to enjoy cycling. So buy the pants that's the best bang for your buck and make sure they are comfortable. Actually, I would say buy the most expensive pants you can find, because I don't want you to buy cheap pants because you think, well, that's good enough. It's not good enough. You really need a good cycling pants. I would say of all the tips, the frame size and the cycling pants is the most important. Tip number 5, do a bike fit. If you get a new bike and you have it all set up and you think, hey, that's great, let's go riding, I would advise you to get a bike fit, because that actually will make you so much more comfortable and make you feel at ease on the bike, and you will enjoy your riding much more. You can just buy a bike from a bike shop and go ride, but the guys at the bike shop, they're glad they're selling you the bike. Of course they're going to give you some service and they're going to make you feel great, but they're not going to go to the effort to make you feel super comfortable on the bike. You're a customer, you've bought the bike, you're gone, they hope not to see you back again. The bike fit is very important because you need to be comfortable on your bike to avoid pain in the butt, low back, neck area, hands, knee pain, and pain in the feet. So all these things are important. So my number 5 tip to you is do a bike fit and get comfortable on the bike and enjoy your cycling. Tip number 6, tire width. If you're riding a road bike, my advice to you would be get a tire with a minimum width of 28 millimeters, because you don't need 26 millimeters or 25 millimeters or 23 millimeters. 28 millimeters is the perfect size to start off with, and from there on, if your frame can take that, you can go wider. So why I've mentioned the frame is, to be able to ride a 28 millimeter, you have to make sure your frame that you are going to buy can handle the 28 millimeter, because if you buy a frame that can't handle 28 millimeter, it's going to rub against the sides and you're going to have to go down to 26 or 25 millimeters. So the most important thing is the frame at the forks where the wheel turns has to be able to handle the 28 millimeter tire width, and sometimes the frames are too narrow and they can't handle 28 millimeters. So if you buy a frame, make sure it can handle 28 millimeter, and maybe if you want, even wider. Recently, research has shown that a wider tire at a lower pressure actually has less rolling resistance and rolls easier and faster. And those are for tires with mostly no tubes, as a tubeless tire, but it apparently also works for tires with tubes. Tip number 7, food. When you go riding, take some food with, take some cards with to buy stuff, and take a gel with. Why? Because if you run out of energy on the bike, you're going to get a hunger knock or you're going to bonk, and that's most probably the worst feeling you can have if you are 25 or 40 k's from home and you don't have enough food with you. You are going to bonk and you are going to regret that. It's a horrible feeling. In my days when I started cycling, and that's 40 years ago, we used to train through the bonk because we thought we were going to get better. Very daft, but that's long ago. So take some food with, take some cards with to buy stuff at the shop or the gas station, and always be prepared. Very important. Tip number 8. Tell someone where you're going. If you plan to ride east or west, south or north, let someone close to you know exactly where you're going, and don't take another route, because it can happen that you fall or something happens and you lose consciousness. Let people know where you're going, specifically if you're going into the woods alone. Let them know where you are and where you're going. What I do is I plan my routes on Komoot, and I send that route that I'm going to ride through to my partner. You can do it quite easily on your phone and send the route that you've planned through to your Garmin or to whatever head unit you have. But it's important to plan that, send it to your partner, let people know where you're going and where you're going to be. And it's not a bad idea every now and again just to send them an app and telling them, I'm right here now and that's how far I am. Probably have so long to go. I expect to be home in 2 hours, give or take. Important, let someone know where you're going, specifically if you ride alone, specifically if you're going gravel riding in the woods or mountain biking. That's very important. Tip number 9, shoes. These two shoes are both from Shimano, road shoe, mountain bike shoe. They're basically the same shoes. They weigh the same, all right? So it's not a question anymore of mountain bike shoes, which this is heavier, road shoes are lighter. That doesn't really go down anymore. So my advice to you is buy a mountain bike shoe, because it has rubber on the outside of the cleat, which means you can walk normally on it, and this cleat sticks out on this side. It really sticks out, so you're going to be doing the Monty Python funny walk, and that ain't cool. So my advice to you would be, if you are going to ride and you want to walk around and look at stuff and go into restaurants and stuff, and you don't want to really be uncomfortable while walking around, mountain bike shoes these days are very light, easy to walk on because the cleat is sunken in the sole, which means you can just walk around, no problem. The road shoe cleat sticks out, so you have to walk on your heels, and it really looks kind of ridiculous, but it belongs with road cycling. That's just how it is. But for comfort, for your first shoe, I would advise go mountain bike or gravel, same shoe. Tip number 10, learn to draft, and do this very carefully because you don't want to fall. You save so much energy riding on someone's back wheel. So what you want to do is start off at a certain distance, maybe 1 or 2 meters, and as you get more comfortable, you can go closer to the back wheel of the person ahead of you. It's important not only for you to be comfortable, but also for the person in front to be comfortable with what you're doing behind him, because it's mostly the guy in the rear that falls, but it can also have consequences for the guy up front if he touches wheels. So find someone that knows what he or she is doing, and go and ride behind that person. Let the person teach you where you have to sit, because if the wind is coming from the right front, you have to sit on the left behind the person. If the wind is coming from the left front, you have to sit a little bit to the right of that person. Most important thing is, professionals do it and amateurs do it, but if you're not a really good drafter, don't cross the wheels, because if that person in the front gets a fright or loses control over the bike, or the wind catches his wheels and he goes over to the right very quickly, he can touch your front wheel and you go down. So drafting is very important because you save so much energy. Riding alone, your average speed might be 27 k's an hour, but when you draft, it could go up to 33 k's an hour or something like that. I'm just mentioning numbers, but drafting makes it much easier. You can complete much more distance in the same time. So learn to draft, start slowly, ask advice, listen to the guys that have knowledge. I've been riding for 40 years and I always show people where they have to sit, where the best place is, because that's something I just know, it's something I can just do is draft, and I can make it as easy as possible for the person behind me. And by that they're also learning. So the idea about drafting is that you are riding behind each other, that you are not crossing wheels. If your front wheel disappears behind the back wheel of the front rider, you're going to crash and burn. Okay? So you want to ride behind the guy, you want to start 2 or 3 meters behind him, you want to close the gap to a comfortable position, and at some stage you're going to actually start feeling, I'm in the draft, I'm out of the draft. And recent research has shown that actually up to 20 meters behind the person you can draft. Now that's lunatic. I could never imagine that, because in triathlon we have to keep a 10-meter, I don't know what it's like now, but we used to have to keep a 10-meter distance. So if you're still getting drafting there, that's quite interesting. You definitely do get a psychological draft. That's definitely, that's a fact. But the idea is you sit behind the person, and if the wind's coming from over here, you want to sit like that without crossing wheels. If the wind's coming from over here, you want to sit over there without crossing wheels. You don't want to cross wheels, you don't want to fall, you don't want to crash and burn. So at the same time, you have to check the wheels, you have to watch where you're sitting, you also have to look at the traffic coming from the front, okay? And if it is an experienced rider, he's going to tell you there's traffic coming on, he's going to point with his hands, he's going to show you if there are obstacles in the road, he's going to point with his fingers. So find someone that's experienced and teach yourself to draft by watching others and learning from others. Cheers.